So, recording. Welcome, everybody. This is Weekday Somatics. I believe this is 13. If it's not, it's whatever day it is. Okay, so let's start from, let's find a, if possible, a seated position. I have something, I have an intention for how we will explore today, and it will be, I believe it will work best if seated, upright. So if that's possible for you, please do that. If it's possible for you to sit without leaning, then please do so. And if not, then don't. And if you find that sitting is too strenuous, then don't sit. You'll still be able to explore this. I realize even if you're lying down, you'll just need to be extra gentle, which has some benefits, okay? So let's find this posture that we have some degree of confidence we'll be able to maintain without strain for about 30 minutes. And of course, that's not a competition. It's not 30 minutes because we're trying to compete to see how long we can do it. It's just, that's about the duration that I'm intending. And you, of course, need to take responsibility for your own self. And if you need to rest from the rest before 30 minutes, that's fine. You take care of that. So we're starting from a posture, whether that's seated or standing or lying down, whatever the case may be, and we're tuning in to see where are we making any unnecessary effort that we can become aware of. My intention for today is to explore something that's, it will be gentle and subtle, but will be a little bit more active than what we've been doing in the last couple of days. So we'll just start by getting clear in the posture, and then we'll see what happens through the exploration, see if that exploration has any effect on the clarity of the somatic experience. So we want to start by noticing how am I in this moment? Am I upright? Or if I'm not upright, maybe if I'm lying down, do I have a sense that I'm aligned? Do I have a sense that the spine, the vertebrae of the spine are aligned? Do I have a sense of the space between the vertebrae? Do I have a sense of the space in the abdominal cavity? Do I have a sense of the space in the chest? Do I have a sense of the what is my, let me put it this way, what is my sense of the head? Do I have a clear sense of the head? Is the head aligned with the spine? Is the head poised? So just getting a sense, like we're just tuning in to this experience. And then this can be like a benchmark that we can check in later and see what seems to be different. So we want to get as much clarity as possible now on what this present experience is. Where do I have clarity? Where do I have confidence? Where am I uncertain? Where is there hesitation? Where is there numbness? Where is there a lack of clarity? Maybe anxiety? Whatever labels we might apply to the experience, just notice whatever your interpretation is. Just notice that. And then we'll be moving beyond that interpretation, going to the direct experience, the direct inquiry through some activity, some gentle activity. Notice the shoulders. Are you aware of the shoulders? Are you aware of the shoulder blades? Are you aware of the bones of the upper arms and how those bones are connected to the shoulder blades, to the collarbones? What's the relationship between the upper arms and the rib cage? So you're just becoming aware, just noticing. And you might be noticing that you don't know. You might be noticing that you have no clear sense whatsoever, or you notice whatever you notice, and that's okay. Just becoming aware and then discovering if maybe we could become clearer or more aware and see what effect that has. So now we'll start with the practical movement to add some contrast and start to maybe get greater clarity on the nature of the experience. Now, if you are lying down, you'll need to modify the instruction a little bit. I'll try and also give some suggestions for how you might make that modification. The most important thing is remember to be gentle and don't strain. So the movement, the actual movement that we do may be very subtle, may not be really subtle, but it may be very subtle. So don't make the mistake of thinking that you have to make exaggerated movements in order to get benefits. In fact, in a lot of ways, the subtler the movement, the more advanced the benefits will be. So let's start by becoming aware of the head. Notice that the head is atop the spine. And in fact, it's connected to the spine. It's really a false distinction to distinguish between the head and the spine. They're in a lot of ways one and the same. So let's become aware of the skull. We each have a skull. And become aware of this skull and the skull in relation to the rest of the spine. And start to notice whatever you notice about that. So maybe just noticing that there is a skull and that the skull is atop the rest of the spine. Maybe we start to notice something new. Maybe we become curious about the sensations that are appearing. And this skull can move atop the spine. So let's explore that movement. And of course, we could move the skull in many ways atop the spine. Let's start by exploring moving the skull so that the skull tips forward, forward being in the direction of the face and the belly. So that orientation. Let's gently allow that skull to tip forward. So the chin begins to drop toward the chest or toward the throat. Don't try to pull the head forward. Don't try to pull the skull toward the front. Just allow it to tip. So we're actually releasing in order to allow it to tip forward. Don't make it exaggerated. Let it be subtle, but also let it be something that is actually there's an actual movement occurring, if possible. If not, you can just imagine it. Now, if you're lying down, you're not going to be able to simply tip the head forward because gravity is going to be working in such a way that you will need to actually do a different activity than if you were sitting upright. So in that case, just explore it's the same you could imagine what the experience might be if you were sitting upright and the head was tipping forward atop the spine, the skull, if the skull was just tipping atop the spine. So you can explore that same movement if you're lying down, but just know that it will be slightly different because you'll actually be using muscular effort on the front side of the body to draw the skull in that way. Whereas if you're sitting upright, gravity is working to allow you to tip the head forward once there's that initial action to get it moving in that direction, then gravity takes care of the rest. Now let's slowly bring the skull back to upright, very, very slowly. See if upright is where you think it is. Where is upright? How do you know where upright is? So we're exploring to discover what upright is. And let's repeat that many times slowly. So we're going to slowly allow the skull to tip forward atop the spine. We're not if we're sitting, we're not pulling. If we're lying down, we have to do some pulling. Let it be very gentle though. But if we're sitting upright, then we just allow the skull to tip forward without pulling. And then slowly bringing the skull to upright. So let's just keep doing that at our own pace. So at your own pace, slowly letting the skull tip forward, and then slowly bringing the skull to upright. And as you're doing that, or as we're all doing that together, I'm going to provide some suggestions for this inquiry so that you can maybe notice some things. So just continue to slowly repeat that very gently. So notice as you're doing this, what you're doing with your tongue. Can your tongue remain soft and relaxed as you are doing this movement with the skull? Does the tongue actually need to be involved in this movement? Does the tongue play an active role in the movement of the skull in this way? So explore if you can do this movement with the tongue resting. And see if you can allow for the tongue to remain at rest continuously through the entire range of the movement. Now, that might mean that you need to slow down more. Might mean you need to pause sometimes to get clarity on what the tongue is doing and how to allow the tongue to rest. So just explore that possibility of the tongue being at rest as you're doing this slow, gentle, subtle movement. Remember, it should be non-strenuous. We're not flinging the head around. We're slowly releasing and then bringing the head back. And of course, if we're lying down, that will be different. But you can explore the same in the same way. So we're making a subtle movement in one direction and then a subtle movement in the opposite direction. And we're noticing, can the tongue remain at rest? I'm going to suggest some other things to be aware of, depending on your present, I'll use an interesting word. I don't know if it's the best word, but level, I'll say level of somatic awareness. You may find that these additional suggestions are appropriate or not. So you can feel free to disregard any of these suggestions if you find that trying to include these in your awareness is too much presently. So these suggestions are to include in your awareness in addition to what you're already presently aware of. So in addition to remaining aware of the tongue and allowing the tongue to be resting so that the tongue is not making unnecessary effort, if it's possible for you to do so, then I invite you also simultaneously to be aware of what are the cheeks doing? Can the cheeks remain at rest as you are exploring this movement? So the tongue and the cheeks remaining at rest as you slowly release the head forward and then slowly bring the head to upright. And we're exploring each time what upright is. So we're not just bringing it back to the same position mechanically that we've called upright, we're actually exploring through this slow movement what upright really is. So we're making this small movement with awareness. If possible, we're aware of the tongue, allowing the tongue to be at rest, and if possible, we're aware of the cheeks and allowing the cheeks to be at rest. And I'll make another suggestion, and this is in addition. So again, you can disregard this if it's not appropriate for you in this moment. Just remain with whatever you can be present to. If it's possible for you, then you could also include in your awareness, in addition to allowing the tongue to be at rest and the cheeks to be at rest, you could also become aware of the eyeballs. Can you allow the eyeballs to remain at rest? And notice what subtle shifts occur in the sensations of the eyeballs with this movement. So as the head tips forward, what happens in the sensations of the eyeballs? Do you habitually try to maintain the same sense of the eyeballs? What happens if you relax that? What happens if you allow the eyeballs to be gently massaged by the movement, by gravity, so that the eyeballs are just resting now. I'll make another suggestion. This is, again, in addition. So you choose whether it's appropriate for you to add this or not. And by the way, if you think, how could anybody be aware of so many things? Well, I guess that gives you something to possibly be excited about, is this possibility that you could be aware of all these things and it could be pleasurable and effortless. So now what I'd like to invite you to also be aware of is, where is this movement occurring? Can you feel it in the, along the spine? Where do you feel it? Where do you sense it? And what I'd really like to invite us to get clear on is allowing ourselves to be aware of the movement just between the skull and the uppermost vertebra. So it's like the skull is hinging very gently. That's why we're not flinging the head. We're just exploring the skull hinging on that uppermost vertebra. Can we become aware of that? Now, if you're lying down, of course, again, it will be different than if you're sitting up. Be very gentle. Don't strain. Even if the head doesn't seem to move at all. And let's pause. Let's pause the movement. So when you're next upright, or if you're lying down, when you're next just resting, having the head rest on the floor or on the bed or wherever, just pause and notice what's different now than before we started the movement. Is there anything different that is your awareness of yourself different? And maybe be aware of any compulsion to put yourself into your habitual position. Notice if you just allow yourself to rest here, you might, if you're sensitive to it, you might notice that your conditioning is presenting itself to you. It's showing itself to you. If you really are aware of it and you're sensitive to it, you can start to notice the compulsive habits to try and put yourself back into your familiar posture, your familiar strain, the way you habitually hold yourself so that you can say, yes, I know that I'm me, and yes, I know what I should be doing, and yes, I know what my relationship to the world is, and all of these things. But what if you just don't indulge any of that and you just rest here in this new way? I become aware of the backside of the neck in a new way. You might become aware of whatever you become aware of, but I become aware of the backside of the neck and the front side of the body as well. There's a new softness in the front side of the body and a new suppleness on the back side of the body. And my brain tells me this is weird. This is strange. This is uncomfortable. Do something. But what if I don't? What if I just remain here with the sensation? Then I see the conditioning. It presents itself, all of the thoughts and the images and the memories. So the image of my body in space, a somatic representation, visual, how my body is oriented in space. My brain says, that seems off. It seems a little different, a little weird, not quite right. But I just am remaining with the experience. Doesn't matter really. Maybe I'm tilted to the side. Maybe I'm tipping forward. Maybe I'm, who knows? But rather than consult the external references and the conditioned references. I want to just be present to the actual experience and allow it to reveal its true nature to me. Because my habitual way has not produced satisfying results. My habitual way, which I have believed is the right way, has been dissatisfying. So let me just test this out by remaining still and aware of this experience and find out, what is it really? Maybe I'm leaning, maybe I'm tipping, maybe I'm all kinds of things, but even if that's the case, do I really know? Am I really clear on why, on what I'm doing? Is it really what I think it is? And I say no, because consistently I discover that it's not what I think it is. I'm not what I think I am. I'm not doing what I think I'm doing. And none of the things that I think I'm doing are producing the results that I think they should. Well, I had in mind much more involved active exploration, but I think we'll revisit this again soon, and we'll add more to it. But I was looking at the time, and I see that this has been plenty for today. We've given our nervous systems plenty to process if we allow it. So let's allow for that processing. Let's trust in that. Let's trust in the intelligence that is perfectly capable of aligning everything, aligning everything so that there's no discrepancy between reality and my perception, so that that reality and my perception are so aligned that there's no difference. And in order to facilitate that, let's really slowly make this transition from this, well, especially if eyes are closed, but this inward somatic exploration to a more outward focus. Let's make that transition smoothly so that we can maintain this awareness, this stillness, this subtlety, and allow for that intelligence to bring everything into alignment so that we don't have to strain so much. So let's become aware of our whole somatic experience. Notice the skull and the jaw and the teeth and the tongue and the throat and the neck, the shoulders, the ribs, front side of the ribs and the back side of the ribs, the heart, the lungs, the lower back, the belly, the arms, upper arms, lower arms, hands, fingers, buttocks, pelvic floor, thighs, lower legs, ankles, feet. Become aware of the space around the body. Notice the interface of the body and the space. Perhaps notice that the space and the body are one. Notice perhaps that that space extends infinitely in all directions, outward and inward. If the eyes are closed, become aware of the eyes, become aware of the eyelids, become aware of the cheeks and the forehead and the temples and the nose, and allow that entire area to soften, to release, so that the eyelids can begin to smoothly and slowly float open. Take your time. See if it's possible to allow the eyelids to open equally, left and right. keep taking your time. Allow for this transition to be very smooth. And I'm going to end this recording momentarily. For those who are here live, like I say, take your time, no rush. We will stay on for the Q&A for those who are here live. For those who are watching the recording, thanks for joining. I'll see you next time, or you'll see me next time, I guess. And today is Friday, so we'll resume on Monday. Bye for now.